Good afternoon, everyone. Today we will discuss disease of lymph node and spleen. Myself, Dr. Pinkal from pathology. So, what are the learning objectives? As this lymph node, you must know the normal structure, normal histology, then pathology, infectious disease, mainly TB. We will not cover this topic in today's discussion because it has been discussed in general pathology practicals. Main focus is malignant tumors, primary or secondary, and spleen, hypersplenism, infarct. Again, CVC has been covered in general pathology. So, what is lymphatic system? Basically, it's made up of organs such as tonsil, spleen, liver, bone marrow, and a network of lymphatic vessels which connect the glands that are known as lymph nodes. Lymph nodes are basically a bean-shaped structure with a capsule, connective tissue covering it called as capsule, and it has afferent lymphatics which drains the organs. Lymph nodes are located throughout the body and they act as a filter to remove bacteria, virus and foreign particles. That means any insult to the body, lymph nodes will recognize them and try to kill them. Some important groups of lymph node like cervical, axillary, inguinal. These are the three major lymph node groups and some supraclavicular, etc. The lymph node groups are draining different area, different region like cervical, that the head and neck, axillary, mainly the chest and internal organ, inguinal, genital area. Lymphocytes. Lymphocytes are the cell in the lymph node, spleen, bone marrow, lymphatic vessels, and they are B and T types of cells. B cells, more in number, they mainly produce antibodies which help to fight infectious agent. T cells, when get activated by some viral insult, they help to activate B cell and they produce antibodies. Normal anatomy and histology of lymph node. That lymph node has three main structures: cortex, paracortex and medulla. Cortex is the outermost layer just beneath the capsule. It has lymphoid follicles, and the paracortical area is between the cortex and medulla. Medulla is the innermost portion which is made up of cords and sinuses. Lymph nodes are basically a second line of defense in the body and are involved in reaction to injury, infection, variety of systemic disease, especially immune diseases, autoimmune disease. In addition to, it is also a site for primary neoplasm as well as commonest site for metastatic deposit. Lymph nodes are spherical, bean-shaped, egg-shaped structure where we see the aggregates of small lymphocyte, and again this collection is also spherical shaped. Like in this figure, you can see this is the lymph node. It has a capsule. This is the capsule and cortical portion, medullary portion, and this are lymphoid follicle. That means aggregates of lymphocyte. They are known as primary follicles which contain numerous immunologically new B cells. Paracortical region, which are between the cortex and medulla, that have predominantly T lymphocyte. Within several days of antigenic stimulation, the primary follicles get enlarged and transform into pale staining area called germinal center. Now these germinal centers are basically active lymphocytes which are in mitotic phase. They are light staining and somewhat precursor lymphocytes. Highly dynamic structure in which B cells acquire the capacity to make high affinity antibodies against specific antigen. T cell zone also frequently undergo hyperplasia in case of immune reaction in which cellular immunity is particularly important, such as the viral infection. In adult, enlargement of node is never normal or resting phase. It is necessary to distinguish morphological changes secondary to the past infection or some other disease. Now, three main pathology we are going to discuss, that reactive enlargement of lymph node, enlargement due to inflammation, and enlargement of lymph node due to neoplastic activity. Our today's discussion will be focused on neoplastic condition, that primary neoplasm and secondary involvement by malignancy. Here we can see the outermost area, capsule. The round egg-shaped structure are follicle and central medullary area. Again, you can see on the left side the large pale staining area, that is germinal center, dark primary follicles and medullary. Again, it's a histopathology of whole-bound specimen of lymph node, where all the outer area, they are cortex containing different sized follicles, and central there are cords known as medullary area. Again, different sized follicle. See, observe the perifollicular aggregates of dark lymphocyte, which is actually known as mental zone, which are made up of the mature B cells. Now, enlargement of lymph node, they are called as lymphadenitis, and they may be acute or chronic. Acute, that means it has some recent insult, and chronic, that means a slow growing process since long. Sometimes the lymphadenitis may be non-specific. We undergo, the clinician try to have antibiotic course, complete antibiotic course, and sometimes it may get resolved within a 6 week. But if it does not, then one has to investigate the cause for lymphadenopathy. Now, in this figure, on the right side, the major area shows different sized follicles. On the right side, we can see the follicle, germinal center, surrounding dark zone, that are mental zone. And the third right lower bottom shows tingible body, macrophages. Here, the sinus histiocytosis. On the left side of the figure, you can see the expanded cords which are having histiocytes. This is the figure of enlarged lymph nodes, multiple enlarged nodes. Now, lymph node evaluation. One should know the modalities what we have to evaluate the node. Like, if we want to evaluate, first is clinical examination, that means history, physical examination. Then the second step is FNAC, that is fine needle aspiration cytology, which is actually very helpful to evaluate almost 90% of lymph node diseases. And currently, majority tertiary care centers, they have this facility. It requires minimal skills, and it has a very good yield and help in investigation. Then radiological, of course, that one can go for CT, MRI, that will give you the enlargement of lymph nodes in deeper organs. But there are some rules, like inguinal nodes are to be avoided for the FNAC or biopsy because of the high frequency of chronic inflammatory and fibrotic changes within them. So if patient is presenting with generalized lymphadenopathy, like in lymphoma, particularly malignancy of lymph node, they come with cervical node enlargement or axillary node enlargement along with inguinal node. So one should go for axillary or cervical, preferably cervical, because it is easy to perform FNAC, easy for biopsy, excisional biopsy, and the yield is very good. Diagnostically, it is very helpful. But one should avoid inguinal node FNAC or biopsy because it has fibrotic changes, chronic inflammatory changes in majority of the cases, and the yield will not be very good. Largest and deepest node should be biopsied as small and superficial, maybe sometime non-specific. Core needle biopsy, it has adequate, it is important, core needle biopsy for diagnostic of, lymph node has mainly in malignancy two types of disease. One is primary malignancy, second is metastatic. Now primary malignancy will involve the complete node, and metastatic malignancy has deposits of some other cells. So core needle biopsy is adequate for diagnosis of metastatic carcinoma because we can easily identify the foreign cells or the cells which are not originally from the lymph node, but not for the lymphoma. So for the lymphoma, one has to go for excisional biopsy. That means complete excision of the node. Touch preparation sometimes useful when one has to differentiate lymphoma from other malignancy. This FNSC very useful in documentation of carcinoma, cytological diagnosis of high-grade lymphoma, which are usually successful in 60 to 70% cases. It is useful in diagnosis of recurrent lymphoma, staging of disease, as well as monitoring of treatment. Inflammatory, we won't go in detail, but of course acute, chronic, and most common in our setup, it is TB. Now lymphoma, we will focus on lymphoma, that are the malignant neoplasm of lymph node or metastatic. Lymphoma is primary, so it is defined as malignancy of lymphocyte in lymph node. They are generally presented with non-tender nodal enlargement, usually greater than 2 cm. If they are less than 2 cm, one should have first differential diagnosis of the non-specific lymphadenitis. Some extranodal sites are also there, like skin, stomach, brain, but most commonly in T-cell lymphoma. When we are talking of B-cell lymphoma, they are generally nodal. As tumor of immune system, this lymphomas are tumors of immune system. This lymphoid neoplasm often disturb the normal architecture and function of immune system, which leads to immune abnormality. So patient may present with autoimmunity. Autoimmunity, that means immunity or attacking one's own cells and susceptibility to infection because their work as a safeguard or the primary secondary defense mechanism, they lost their original function. So susceptibility to infection, that means fever, and breakdown of tolerance, that means autoimmunity. Majority are B cell, less commonly T cell or NK cell. Now malignant lymphoma, basically the generic term given to the, again you should know that only lymphoma is always malignant lymphoma. It's a misnomer, like it is just oma, suffix oma will not show it's a benign tumor, it's malignant of course. So it is a generic term given to the tumors of lymphoid system, specifically lymphocyte and their precursor, B, T or null. Basically lymphoma has many classification over the period of time, like Rappaport, FAB, real classification, but what we currently using are WHO classification, which are of course based on morphology as well as genetic study. Now the newer classification 2012, they have focused on genetic rearrangement. But primarily, they are mainly classified in two types of lymphoma, like one is Hodgkin's, another is non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Very important, we will discuss why Hodgkin's lymphoma and non-Hodgkin's are two different groups, and it is necessary to classify primarily as lymphoma under whether it is Hodgkin's or non-Hodgkin's. Either you are reporting FNSC report of patient or biopsy, one has to mention whether it is Hodgkin's lymphoma or non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Like you have to go for histology. If it is not evident on histology, one can use ancillary techniques like immunophenotyping. It is very important to know Hodgkin's lymphoma for students because they can be asked in exams. They can be taken as RS cells, which are the main component of Hodgkin's lymphoma. You can have a short note on RS cells. So please focus on Hodgkin's lymphoma. So it has a orderly spread fashion. As a result, staging of importance in determining the therapy. While in contrast, NHL, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, they are less predictable. They have haphazard spread and systemic disease, systemic involvement at the time of diagnosis. Hodgkin's. Now, what do you mean by Hodgkin's lymphoma? So, one has to find out RS cells, that are the Reed-Sternberg cells, which are basically giant cell, malignant giant cells, which are present in this lymphoma with a characteristic background of reactive inflammatory cells of various types. Now, WHO has classified nodular predominant as a one part of Hodgkin's lymphoma and a classical variant. Most common are classical variant, in that nodular sclerosis and mixed cellularity are much more common than lymphocyte rich and lymphocyte depleted. Depleted are mainly seen in immunocompromised patients. Now, why these two classification? One is nodular lymphocyte predominant Hodgkin's disease and other is classical Hodgkin's disease. So, here immunophenotype is important, that the RS cell, which are actually the malignant cells of Hodgkin's, in classical variant they are CD15, CD30 positive, while in NLPHL, that is nodular lymphocyte predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma, they are 1530 negative. So, first four subtypes like nodular sclerosis, mixed cellularity, lymphocyte rich and lymphocyte depleted, they have a similar immunophenotype, and the others, they have lymphocyte predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma, they have different immunophenotype which are characteristic for B cell. RS cells are basically neoplastic giant cells called Reed-Sternberg cells that induce accumulation of reactive cells, that are lymphocyte, histiocyte, macrophages, granulocyte, eosinophils, etc. Plasma cells. The neoplastic RS cells are typically made up of minor fractions, maybe 1 to 5% of all cells, all tumor cell mass. They derived from the germinal center or post-germinal center B cells. RS cells, classical RS cell, seen in subtypes of classical Hodgkin's lymphoma. They have similar immunophenotype, but in NLPHL, that is nodular lymphocyte predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma, they have different immunophenotype. So, they are large, basically very large than normal lymphocyte or background cells. They have abundant weakly acidophilic cytoplasm. Very important feature is nucleus, which are bilobed, polylobed, or they have mirror image. Membrane is thick, sharply defined, and nuclear pattern is vesicular. They have a very good acidophilic central nucleolus, which are surrounded by clear halos. Owl eye appearance, you can see the two central yellow pale colored area which are actually nucleoli, then nuclei, and then the common cell membrane. So, it's a typical owl eye or mirror image appearance of RS cell. Variant are mononuclear. These are the variants of RS cells, which are mononuclear, mummified, lacunar cell variant, and lymphocytic histiocytic, that is LH variant, resembling popcorn, seen in NLPHL, that the nodular lymphocyte predominant Hodgkin's lymphoma. Background, characteristic background which is seen in classical but not in NLPHL. Again, it's a picture of lymphadenopathy. It's a gross of lymphadenopathy where you can see various sized lymph nodes which are merged or just adjacent to each other. Now, very good picture, self-explanatory picture of RS cell where I don't have pointer or arrow, but you can make out by yourself that central cell has two nuclei and two eosinophilic nucleoli, which is a typical RS cell, and the background cells are B cells. Again, a very beautiful picture that you have a binucleated cell, single cell membrane, amphophilic cytoplasm, eosinophilic, very typical large nucleoli. And see the size of cell from the surrounding cell or the background cells. Again, a very beautiful picture of the RS cell. This is the mummified cell where a central cell has a multi-lobated or folded nuclei with a very dark staining nuclear material. They are known as mummified RS cell. These are lacunar variant. That means the multiple nuclei which are set in a vacuole or a lacune, that are again multinucleated giant cell, and they are RS cell. So we don't go in detail, but a very small talk on nodular sclerosis because it is the commonest variant. Why it is nodular sclerosis? Because the nodular arrangement along with interspersed fibrosis or sclerosis is the typical histological pattern. So these classifications are based mainly on histology. 65 to 75% cases lacunar cells, collagen bands and neoplastic cells which are found in a characteristic background. Lacunar cells, what we have seen in our previous slides. Again you can see the nodule of a follicle which is made up of small lymphocytes with intervening pink colored collagen bands, that are the sclerosis. Again a very good nodule which are formed by lymphocyte and RS cells. I can't point out, but you can see the larger 2-3 cells which are RS cell and surrounded by fibrosis. These are the multiple nucleus with nucleoli and typical large cells. Again RS cell. Mixed cellularity, that means it has this terminology based on background, that it has multiple cells in the background. Classical RS cells with involvement of background with which are infiltrated with granulocyte, lymphocyte, plasma cell, eosinophils. They are generally seen in older age and it has good prognosis. Nodular sclerosis has the best prognosis. Now lymphocyte predominant, we will not go in detail. Popcorn cells, again it is NAPHL. Very important is they are CD15-30 negative and B cell markers, that is LCA, CD45 and CD20 positive. Depleted staging you can go through by your books. Here the first image, right sided upper image, again shows mirror image RS cell. On the left side upper shows mummified, and in right lower it has lacunar, and on the left lower again multilobated giant cell. Difference of Hodgkin's, non-Hodgkin's should be known and can be asked in your viva, like it has a very ordered spread from the cervical above the mediastinum or below the mediastinum, orderly spread by contiguity, and it has haphazard spread, NHL. Mesenteric node, Waldner ring, they are generally spared, while in NHL they are involved. Extranodal is extremely uncommon in HL, while extranodal is seen in NHL. Now non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, very superficial look of non-Hodgkin's we will discuss. 2/3 of NHL, they arise from node, and 1/3 extranodal, that means apart from node. Most common sites are skin, stomach, brain. Working formulation, as we have discussed, for the lymphoma we had so many previous classification, Rappaport, FAB, Real, but what we are using, they are the WHO classification. And WHO classification has B cell, T cell, NK. First is Hodgkin's, non-Hodgkin's. Non-Hodgkin's again in B cell, T cell, NK, precursor, peripheral, and then by the cytogenetics. What is the peculiarity of NHL? In contrast to HL, which has a specific malignant giant cell known as RS cell, here the complete effacement of architecture is seen. That means the complete lymph node, like 2 cm, 3 cm, whatever section you will take and examine, each and every cell will give the same look. It has a monomorphic appearance. The typical term is monomorphic. That is why we have to examine the complete node. Like needle core needle biopsy will not help to diagnose 100% diagnosis of lymphoma. Sometimes they are very low grade lymphomas that they just give the appearance of the mature lymphocyte, and it is extremely difficult to differentiate lymphoma from sometimes reactive lymphoid structure. That is why effacement of architecture. Effacement, that means disturbed architecture of lymph node, is very important. Here you can see on the right side we have cortex, medulla. Medulla has cords. Cortex, they have follicles. And on the right side you can see the effacement. Sorry, for you on the left side it is effacement variable sized follicle and complete architectural effacement that is seen in lymphoma. Like this pictures will be same, but yes, large cell lymphoma in case of T cell, the cells are very large, convoluted nuclear membrane, nucleoli, 1 or 2 nucleoli, sometimes very bad look. Now see this, it is a small cell lymphoma, B cell lymphoma, very medium-sized cells, and they have monomorphic appearance, small nucleoli and effacement of architecture. These are cleaved cell. Cleaved, that means cleave. This nucleus you will see the nuclei like folded balloon. That are the cleaved cells. Burkitt's lymphoma, you should know Burkitt's lymphoma. It has a starry sky appearance because it has some macrophages that will give the stars in the dark sky. In the dark background, you will see some macrophages, tangible body macrophages. They are common in children and young adults. Jaw and facial bones. Morphology, they have a round oval nuclei, lymphocyte, coarse chromatin, vacuolated basophilic cytoplasm with characteristic starry sky appearance and high mitotic activity. That means it has a bad prognosis. Now metastatic tumor. When we talk of neoplasms of lymph node, the metastatic tumors are more commoner than the primary lymphoma. Common with carcinoma, because the carcinoma and sarcoma, you might be knowing that the carcinomas, they spread through the lymphatics. Sarcomas and mesenchymal tumors, they spread through blood vessels. So yes, of course, carcinoma, malignant melanoma and GCT is rare with sarcoma. Some exceptions might be there. Now, according to the site, upper cervical, middle cervical, supraclavicular, axillary, Virchow's triad in case of GIT, of adenocarcinoma of GIT, and inguinal. Inguinal will give genital like CA cervix, CA penis, etc. Upper cervical, upper aerodigestive, middle cervical, that additionally include thyroid, supraclavicular, lung, breast, etc. So metastatic carcinoma, perhaps a single most important staging and prognostic factor, and it is very easy to diagnose when you do a simple FNSC, fine needle aspiration cytology of superficial node, and you can actually diagnose the underlying malignancy of deep-seated organ. Metastatic cells first enter into subcapsular sinus, then replace entire node. The tumor may be focal, may completely replace the node. See, this is the metastasis of node, and you can see the squamous cell carcinoma again, but you can appreciate intracellular keratin. Like in a right lower portion, you can see the cells have abundant eosinophilic cytoplasm, that's the keratin, characteristic of SCC. Metastatic adenocarcinoma here, on the right side you can see the lymphoid aggregates, and on the right side you can see the different gland formation, like they give the look of papilla. It's adenocarcinoma. Subcapsular sinus, again a very beautiful picture, like the upper portion that shows the normal structure of node, and the lower portion, which is a subcapsular area, that shows papillary structure, and it's a metastasis from papillary carcinoma of thyroid. It's a IVC from breast. Again, breast is a different picture. Now spleen, a very small topic, but at least you should know the topic and the spleen, its position, its histology, enlargement, normal weight like 120 to 150 grams in adult, and its function and the causes of splenomegaly and difference of splenomegaly and hypersplenism. So it is of 150 grams as a part of immune system, and below diaphragm, bordered by diaphragm, smooth glistening capsule, it has a red and white pulp, it is a histology, and it's a blood supply. Splenic function, in Vivid can be asked what are the functions of spleen, that to remove old cell, major secondary organ of immune system, hematopoiesis. Sometimes when bone marrow is actually compromised in aplastic anemia, or sometimes bone marrow has been replaced by malignancy, then hematopoiesis occurs in liver and spleen. So actually one can see the hematopoiesis in spleen also. So it's a major secondary organ for hematopoiesis. That means generation of blood cells. Again, it can sequester the blood cell. That means the pull blood cell. They just squeeze the blood cells from the periphery. Normally 15 to 30% of blood cells can be sequestrated into the spleen, but it can do it up to 70 to 80% in such an extent that it can cause actually pancytopenia. 15% of body's phagocytic activity, they are taken place in the spleen. Now, what is hypersplenism? First, you should know splenomegaly and hypersplenism. Splenomegaly is actually a one condition that the spleen has enlarged. But hypersplenism, that means enlarged spleen has actually sequestrated so much amount of blood cells that it has caused anemia, leukopenia, thrombocytopenia, and correction of pancytopenia can be done by splenectomy. Here one should confirm that the bone marrow of an individual is normal. Only after normal bone marrow assessment one can do splenectomy. Otherwise, if spleen is the only organ for hematopoiesis, one should not go for splenectomy. Otherwise, we may lose the patient. Splenomegaly, congestive versus infiltrative. Hypersplenism, it has symptoms and pancytopenia, so one should go for splenectomy. So, hypersplenism and splenomegaly are different. There are a list of causes for splenomegaly. You can go through your books like involvement by TB in infection, some portal hypertension, malignant diseases, immune disease, storage disease, etc. CVC has been included in your general patho lectures, but still just gross and microscopy that spleen has 3 stages of splenomegaly, that is mild, moderate and severe. You should know the causes according to the size of the spleen. You can see the sclerosed cut surface, some white area, sinuses, microscopically gamma-Guindy bodies. This is the picture of sickle cell anemia with gamma-Guindy bodies, and it's a splenomegaly, congestive splenomegaly. Splenic infarct, they are caused by occlusion of major splenic artery or its branches, and it has infarct which are also common in markedly enlarged spleen regardless of the cause, presumably because of the blood supply is compromised. Nearly 90% of infarct which are caused by thrombotic event and are almost a result of arterial occlusion. White infarcts are encountered with arterial occlusion. Grossly, infarct are hemorrhagic. Recent infarcts are hemorrhagic, but older one are white, pale, yellow. You can see the infarct. Microscopically, infarct is just like a necrotic area. Homogeneous pinkish material can be seen. Thank you.